Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the final edition of Go Fork Yourself for 2024. And first, let me say that I am in a different T-shirt, but I am in a hotel room, and out behind me, that is Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Yep, Saudi Arabia. I'm here for a conference, giving a talk on building personal brands and things like that in the food space. And I'm really grateful to the Ministry of Media for having us here and being willing to have frank and open discussions about these things. It is quite a trip, and we'll be talking more about this on future episodes of Go Fork Yourself. But most importantly, a huge apology to all of you. My whole goal in starting a Substack was to have multiple installments a week and to build a community. And over the last 6 weeks, issues in my personal life, I'm just a human being. Nothing tragic, just, kid stuff, life stuff, friends who got sick, bad calendar crap, all co-conspired to limit my ability to keep up with a lot of things in my life, this being one of them. So a huge apology to everyone, and I am going to do everything I can to make sure that doesn't happen in 2025, and set up some systems so that it doesn't. But anyway, a huge apology for you, and thank you for hanging in with me and being just the best human beings on planet Earth. All right. Let's get right to it, shall we? The New York Times published a list of the 25 most influential cookbooks from the last 100 years. And people have been asking me, what would I add to the list? Well, we have a link to the list below, and you'll notice there's just tons of firsts, like the first big Indian cookbook, the first big French cookbook, first big Chinese cookbooks, plural. And those books really did provide a ton of influence. And obviously, Julia and Jacques are on there as well. I think, obviously, there's a bias towards cookbooks that came out at the point in time in the 60s, 70s, 80s, where Americans really got into food, obviously, right? But I think there have been some cookbooks published before and after, and some from that time that are definitely worthy of inclusion. And I think, when the American Film Institute, the AFI, did their list of, best movies, it was 100 movies. And I think the reason they did that was to make sure, number one, there's a lot of movies, but there's also a lot of cookbooks, right? And I think it's to make sure that they covered all their bases. And I wish this list had been bigger. It's a great list, but off the top of my head, James Beard's cookbooks, a lot of them, especially Theory and Practice of Good Cooking, should be on there. Jean-Louis Paladin's first cookbook should be on there. It sort of set level set this country for what modernist cooking could be. The Alinea cookbook, same thing. The WD 50 cookbook, same thing. I really think some of the cookbooks I have signed in my eye, on the modernist level, Nathan Myhrvold's Modernist Cooking, Modernist Bread, Modernist Pizza. All of Nathan Myhrvold's work should be on there. Italian-wise, Bugiali's Italian cookbook should be on there from Spain. Penelope Casas, C-A-S-A-S, her cookbook should be on there. Bugiali is Giuliano Bugiali, B-U-G-I-A-L-L-I, if you want to look some of his books up. The New York Times, Pierre Frenet, Craig Claiborne book should be on there. I'm just, pulling stuff off the top of my head. The 1,000 Recipe Chinese Cookbook. So many books should be on there. So, lots of lists got published over the last month or so. And I know I've spoken about this before, but let me just add this right now. What really set me over the edge was I forget whether it was the Star Tribune here in Minneapolis or Minneapolis St. Paul Magazine, or maybe it was both, published a list of like the 25 or 50 best restaurants in the Twin Cities. And not only were some missing, but there were some that were so unfairly recognized for being good when they are mediocre as best. It just blew my mind. And the reason that they are on there is for reasons other than their food and service. And I think that's fine. There are a lot of restaurants that are super important that should, maybe they're not the best restaurant in your town, but they're the most important restaurant to have opened over the last year, right? For one reason or another. And they're worthy of consideration for one reason. I go to lots of restaurants, not because they're the best restaurant, but because of how they make me feel when I'm in there. And so I really believe the problem is the word best. Stop it. People should stop using the word best. It is misleading at best. All right, on to a Washington Post story about how to get people to try new foods, insects, cultured meats. And it's a fascinating article. The link is here. It's short. You should read it. And there's a great section on, basically the premise is if you want to get Americans to try new things, you either have to root it into something that they're familiar with, or to use the sushi metaphor, something that's a novelty, right? And in the 60s, sushi was a novelty here in America, and then it exploded in the 70s. Now it's being sold in gas stations. And it's really quite interesting. And the person who wrote this is as learned as they come. I was surprised that they didn't talk about the behavioral scientists' approach to understanding why people change a habit. And that is it's trust in whoever's communicating the message. So if it's your mother or grandmother saying, try it, you'll love it, you have a better chance of eating it than if a stranger says, try it, you'll love it, where you would be naturally suspicious. But the biggest takeaway for me in the article is the most obvious. And maybe it's because I approach it from a different reason. The reason the novelty foods, at the time sushi was a novelty food, take off is because they're fucking delicious. They're great. So once you try them, everyone's like, oh my God. So of course you tell your friend, I ate raw fish yesterday. It was amazing. It came on this vinegared rice. It blew my mind. And until food does that, that's why nobody wants to eat cookies made with cricket flour, because they don't taste good. You've got to have to have food that tastes good. That's where it all starts. That's one of the reasons we eat, right? If you were stranded in the forest, you'd eat your shoe, but that's out of necessity. So if it's not out of necessity, it has to taste good. All right. Anyway, end of my little lecture. Hold on. I've got to move my camera a little bit. All right. Oh, much better for me. Sorry. So Washington Post story. Think about it. Chuck writes, questions from you people. In your last cool shit in the mail segment, you displayed a set of wooden cooking spoons. Yes, everyone who's hearing my voice now should go buy one. Go to andrewzimmern.com. Just once you open up that website, there's a link. You can just buy the spoons right there. There's one at the top of this Substack post. I designed them with the folks at Blanc Creatives. They're great. One of the spoons, Chuck writes, has a large hole in the center, which seems odd for a spoon. What is that one used for? It's used for stirring, whipping. You can beat a lot of things. You don't need a whisk. You can beat a lot of things with a spoon with a hole in it. But also, two things. You can serve out of it. So if I'm serving chicken and red wine, coq au vin, I can actually use two spoons, but one with a hole in it. So then one is for the liquid, the gravy, the other one's for the solids, right? So that's number one. Number two is that when I'm stirring something like a meat sauce for pasta, if it has a hole in it, the meat passes through and I don't get as many splatters up against the side of the pot or food falling out of the pot or the bowl. It also, along with the matching spoon shape that doesn't have a hole in it, makes a gorgeous service piece. So it functions as many, many, many things. So I would encourage everyone to go get this set, handmade out of cherry wood, lasts a lifetime. Kristene writes, headed to London in a month. I've not traveled internationally in 10 years. How to be a good traveler these days is her question. She doesn't want to be an ugly American. Be kind, be curious, ask questions. That's it. Be kind and curious and ask a lot of questions. That's all I do. Say thank you a lot. Try everything. Don't practice contempt prior to investigation. I think it's really, really simple. Have a smile on your face. Traveling like that will change your life. It's transformative. You try new things, you ask questions, you participate in life when you're traveling differently, and you export what you've learned back into your home life. Really simple. I think it's glorious. Great question. Thanks, Kristene. Joe writes, Chef, what is your opinion on booty calls? What food wine is appropriate? Wow, what a fascinating question, Joe. Well, first of all, there's absolutely nothing wrong with a booty call. If someone calls you for a delivery, what a flattering thing. And if you're calling someone else for them, way to be honest. And in terms of food and wine, I mean, one of the best things I'm 63. I've done a lot of living. But one of the things that I think has always been appreciated is, if you can make someone something delicious and light to eat afterwards, what a fantastic thing to do. Because it satiates the other hunger, and then there's round two. So, yeah. So the food should be light. Light. Share an omelet with someone. Make a great salad. Be able to cook off something really simplistic. Like if it's an angel hair pasta with just a little butter and cheese, it should be 2 small portions, right? Or 3 if that's your thing. Who am I to judge? And I don't drink, so the alcohol thing doesn't do it for me. But by all means, same sort of deal. Champagne, right? Alexandra writes, I want to start learning how to pair flavors to build intricate tastes. Wow. Julie Turshen just wrote a great book on that we talked about as one of our favorite cookbooks a couple weeks ago. I was wondering if you have any literature of yours that you'd recommend. I'm from Miami. I experiment a lot with traditional Japanese and Hispanic cooking, also Italian. Oh, great. All 3 of those things merge and meet up really beautifully. Any tips on flavor profiling would be great. Well, there's a whole group of books right now. Julie Turshen's cookbook, I think it's called What Goes With What, or What to Eat With What, talks about those things. It's lots of illustrations and grids about how to pair things with food. And so I would recommend that, and it's a great place to start. But I also think if you experiment a lot with Japanese and Hispanic cooking, I always like to use, or Italian, you mentioned those 3, use the foods, a dish or ingredients from one culture with technique from another, if that makes sense, right? And start there. And I think what would be a great example, instead of doing a classic Italian fritto misto, experiment with tempura batter, classic tempura batter, with Italian seafood, and serve it with the other Italian flavors. Hit it with oregano and have tomato sauce to go with it or something, or just lemon instead of the tsuyu, typical dipping sauce for tempura. You get what I'm saying? I think it's fun. Catherine writes, the beef stroganoff recipe sounds good, and I'm definitely going to try it. Please do. I'd like to know the purpose of the baking soda, though. It dries out the beef, helps the marinade ingredients get absorbed, and when you sear it, even thin slices before the meat is overcooked and is still juicy inside, it browns the outside. Make sense? What other kind of mustard would work? Because I don't have a Hungarian type of mustard. Go with just a French Dijon. Something simple, but not yellow mustard. That belongs on a hot dog if you choose to, and not in a lot of cooking. Brendan writes, hey, Andrew, have you ever used argan oil for cooking? I have. It was very popular about 8-9 years ago. I liked it. Good high-strength oil. Right now, avocado oil is really big. Lots of other oils have been arriving in my house, and why am I blanking on the one that I just tried the other day, which was okay. Didn't add a lot to my cooking. Nina writes, I'm looking for restaurant recommendations for Palm Springs this winter, in addition to Mervyns. Yeah, Mervyns is a classic. I love Mervyns. Festive or off-the-beaten-track recommendations are appreciated. Well, I mean, Palm Springs is really, really, really cool. And there's a ton of places that I recommend. For modern American, go to Four Saints, the number 4 Saints. I'm just looking at my list here. Sandfish for sushi, if you want some Japanese food. Birba, B-I-R-B-A, for Italian. There's a place there called the Pink Cabana, which is, I think, at the Sands Hotel and Spa. That's pretty fantastic. If you're looking for something simple and French, Farm is really great. There's a Mexican spot called Tequila, but they spell it TAC/QUILA, which is pretty fun. Cheeky's for brunch, CHEEKY''S. Vietnamese American, Rooster and the Pig is really good. Trio is really good, another modern American cuisine place, which is really wonderful. Kind of like Mervyns, if you like old school, go to Mr. Lyons, Lyons. Yeah, Sinatra went there, so it's got to be good enough for you. And King's Highway would probably be my last one. King's Highway is, it's a diner created by the people at the Ace Hotel there. So that's what I would recommend. Anything else on no, I'm just going to bitch more about people in their lists. Anyway, thank you again. My sincerest apologies in my lack of consistency, but that's going to be my goal in 2025, is to be more consistent. So I hope you all have a pleasant holiday, whatever you celebrate. We will have a couple of drops between now and New Year's, but obviously we have people on vacation. Our office is closed, so we'll have some recipe stuff. There's this, and then back with a vengeance in 2025. Stay awesome.